This is a way for you to make your own fuel gauge and save yourself some money, okay? I have a massive secret. So a fuel gauge is actually an oil gauge, okay? A fuel gauge is an oil gauge. You can just take your fuel gauge cover, pop off this cover, stick that on, and you'll now have a fuel gauge. It won't be completely accurate. It'll be a little low. So in other words, where it's supposed to be half tank, you'll have a little less than half tank. So it won't be perfect. I'm going to show you how to make it perfect though. Okay. So if you do need a fuel gauge, then here you go. This is a way for you to save money, or you can just buy the ones from us that we restore, and you'll see all the crap that I go through to switch it over to a fuel gauge and understand why it costs as much as it does. There's two gauges on the site. All right, so one's for the 74, 75, and the next one up is for the 76 to 91. The 74 to 75 is quite a bit less expensive than the next one up. Okay, now if you buy both of them, they're two different brands, and I'm not going to mention the brand here. So you can probably guess why. They're the same. They're the same gauge. They're identical in every way. All right, ohm readings, every single thing, a part of that is the same. So you can purchase the less expensive gauge and use it. So the less expensive meaning the 74, 75 gauge, and use it on your 75 to 91 instrument cluster, and just replace that faceplate or put our sticker on, or however you want to do it. But it's the same gauge. All right, just so you're fully aware. All right. So at 23, we're going to be coming up to right about the center here. But if this is a fuel gauge with a fuel gauge faceplate, that's going to be a little under. So I'm going to switch out this faceplate here so you can see what I'm referring to, and put it on, and you can see it come up just so close. Okay, and then we'll show you how to make it perfect here after that. All right, so typically I work my way all the way around, because you don't want it to come popping off so aggressively that you end up messing up your needle here. So and all I do, I'm just prying. So you see here, as I'm going up, I'm just kind of prying it up here. This is just a little 90-degree pick, and I'm just bending this up. And I find it's easy to get in there with this to kind of bend it up. Then I come back with the world's smallest pry bar and just kind of finish the job here. All right, Monty. I even hold it down so it doesn't come exploding out there. So just slide it on. Again, use the little protrusion here on the tip to line that up. Make sure this is lined up. And sometimes, yep, this one has to be bent back out. Because I can't stress how thin this aluminum is right here. It's kind of like actually not kind of, it is like the face plates that are like the speedometer face plate, and like the oil pressure face plate. And if you bend it even a little bit, it just, those kinks, they just they kind of live there after that. Okay. So forgive me if I'm not holding it perfect here, so you can see I promise to get better. All right, let's see. So that's lined up. Oh, you son of a... Okay, just so you know, I'm leaving this up right now. Okay, I'm taking this faceplate off, but right now I got everything lined up, and I want you just to see how it goes. But I don't want to keep manipulating this little piece of aluminum and have it end up breaking on me there. I got about 10,000 of these little ones, but I already have a sticker and stuff already on this one. So let's see. So let's put it back on. And make sure you're it's gonna bite me in the butt, I know it is. Okay, again, just make sure that your slots are lined up and this is popped into place here. And alternate tightening these down so you're not trying to tighten one down completely. Alright, we are attached. Is that in there? It's in there-ish. Make sure that this is lined up with that. Alright. Again, the ground back to the ground. Alright, the power probe back to the top right hand of the temperature gauge, which is the voltage regulator for the board. And your fuel gauge is number 7, which is the third one down. 1, 2, 3. All right. So set my multimeter to ohms, move from continuity to resistance, and from there, oh, look at that, 23.6. And when you're messing with your potentiometer, I tell you what, you can spend 6 months trying to hit 23, and sometimes you get right on the money and sometimes you don't, but just get close is the general idea. So, all right, we're all set up. Let me power up and let's watch our fuel gauge. Where are we gonna go? Okay, so this is what would happen right here if you took an oil gauge and just took the faceplate of your fuel gauge and put it on. That's where you would end up going, okay? So if you're okay with that, money, there you go. If you're not okay with that, let me show you how to fix this, okay? So, stop. Okay, so we have it removed. And again, same method for popping this off. Basically, I'm just working my way around the slip here, all the way around. And remember not to go too crazy on one spot. Hey, just like that. Okay, great example of bending it. All right, so slightly bent, and I forced it trying to get into a hurry. Got things to do today. So you don't want to grab it by the tip and try to bend it down. Okay, so it's to say it's fragile would be an understatement. So something flat like so, touching the base and just slowly taking it down. Boom, done. Okay, all right, so there's 2 points inside of this. Let me see, let me put up my palm, might be easier to focus on. Okay, so there's 2 points. All right, now inside, you can see this little opening. Let's see, this little like keyhole right here, and this little keyhole right here. Both of these need to be adjusted to get this to fall within the ohm range that we want it to be to show a half tank of fuel. Okay, so again, both these need to be adjusted. So here's the pivot point on this one, and here's the pivot point on this one up here. So the thing you're going to actually pull from are these 2 guys right here, though. Okay, so in the past, well, I would just say probably all the time, so this one I pull, okay, so the bottom one I pull, and the top one I push. The bottom one I pull, the top one I push. And the bottom one is attached to the base of the shaft here. And the top one that you see up here is attached, come on, focus, to the other portion of the upper part of the base, which goes up and connects that circuit right there. Okay, hopefully you can see that. So before I figured out this whole oil gauge system here, I figured out how to essentially restore these. So you can restore it if you basically just have some corrosion or rust built up on the little windings. So if you do have corrosion built up here, if you get a brass brush or just something really soft to lightly clean this, and from there go through and do your test again and see if it starts to work for you. If it does not, you can clean it again gently, and then repeat that process. So if you do get it to work and you plug it in, life is golden. What I would then do is take a little dielectric and just basically coat those wires right there, because essentially you just wore off the top layer of protection there. So put a little bit of dielectric, not a mountain of it, but just a little bit, just to keep some moisture out of it, and go from there. Now the bases right here, if you have heavy corrosion or rust basically in these bases right here, it's where the wire connects at. Let's see if you can see that. So right here is where the wires connect. If you have rust in there, it's pretty toasty. I would just get rid of it and just get a new one, because every one I've tried to save that has rust right here, it just doesn't work. It just doesn't come back at all. And unless you're the world's greatest solderer, I mean, maybe you can. I don't personally want to try to solder that tiny little wire back on there though. But all right, so I'm gonna grab my hook, and I'm gonna have a difficult time holding it for you to see. I've done it so many times, I have a general idea of exactly where I want it to go. So just know on this bottom one, I'm gonna hook it and pull it just a little bit. And okay, on the top one, I'm gonna push it. So what I do is I use my little hook, but I use it as a, see if you can see it, I use it like a pry bar. Okay, so when I hook on, put my finger on the bottom of the gauge itself, and I use it to kind of pull on it and pry up, so I'm not prying on any wires or anything. And then when I push, I just do the opposite, where I use my finger again and just kind of put against the gauge. I go into that little key opening, and then just lightly push on it, okay? And that, in my experience, is typically enough to get it to move here. So I'm sorry, I'm not holding it perfect here, guys. Okay. It's just a little bit. It's not a lot. In fact, if you feel like you need to move it a lot, because if you move this one down and that one across, you're moving further than you might think. So it actually moves quite a bit there. So let's see about putting this back on. This time be more careful. All right, now I'm not going to leave this needle out like this, but I'm going to leave it like this to test it. There you go. There we go. Okay. So the way I have it bent out, it might be difficult to see, but it's basically adjusted up right at the beginning of the power band right there. So let's see if I did it. Okay, remember to alternate sides gently. Inspect to make sure you have everything flush and you have it in the location pins or slots. Alright, game on, let's do it again. Alright, hooking the power to temperature gauge, which is that top right hand post. Alright, hooking up my ground for both the power probe and the potentiometer. Alright, setting the multimeter to resistance. Let's see, I believe it's 23. Let me check my cheat sheet. Yeah, so half tank is 23 ohms. So let's see. Come on, baby. Money. All right. So, or close. All right. So, 23 ohms. I tap my, let's see, I have my lead going from the potentiometer to the pin for the fuel, which is number 7. Always check the cheat sheet, never go off memory. Number 7, fuel, which is the third one down, 1, 2, 3, pin. Okay, so starting from the top, 1, 2, 3. And I keep picking and moving this up side to side here, guys, and if your leads are touching or grounding out on any other you know, metal or gauge or anything, it's going to skew your readings here. Okay, so when you do it yourself, you're going to be able to have it upright like so. So just know I'm kind of overly cautious, trying not to let these ground themselves out on other gauges and such. Okay, all right, money. Let's see. And when I did that, my potentiometer changed. So all right, 23. All right, so let's see what we got. Eureka. All right, so half tank of fuel. All right, so we're now set to half tank, and you're good to go right there. So just know, if remember, you can use the earlier fuel gauge, or excuse me, the earlier, less expensive oil gauge for both the early fuel gauge and late fuel gauge. So basically, if you want to take your early, excuse me, if you need to purchase an oil gauge, you can purchase the less expensive earlier oil gauge, which is $74.75, and use it on your 76 to 90 or 76 to 85 cluster there. Okay, and basically you just need to switch out the faceplate right there. And let's see, that's it. So it'll take a minute for that to go all the way down right there. All right.